Hi, it's John McCririck here in the fourth floor of the new Princess Royal stand at Cheltenham with a head honcho here at Cheltenham, Ian Renton. And here, Ian, it really is absolutely amazing to see the space you've got, the facility here. This is just the fourth floor. What was behind the thought behind it all?
The thought, what we wanted to achieve, was to actually upgrade the facilities for our racegoers here to the standard of the racing. I mean, we know we got world-class racing here, and we wanted to get our facilities to match. And this is a first step along that route. I think we built a fantastic new stand. Thank all our racegoers, seem really pleased with it, and created space and created one or two fantastic facilities like the one we're in at the moment.
And it was opened by the Princess Royal Princess Anne on Friday. I remember in the old days, the old stand, the A&R stand here, used to go into a privileged box there, and it was really very sort of, more calls coming in for you on race day. But it was a sort of very, very sort of totally an oldie worldy atmosphere compared to this. This is the modern era, and you did it in just 19 months.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the racecourse team here, together with the contractors here, have done a fantastic job in not only building this stand in 19 months, but also opening the site every race day for the past season, which has been, a massive achievement for both our team and for Kia. So to have reached this time, to be finished on time for the Princess Royal to open it, has been a great result.
How much were you driven by the new sporting facilities, not only in Britain, around the world? That you've got to upgrade, move upwards. What sort of standard were you aiming for, and what do you think you've reached?
This isn't the biggest stand in the world, but I think we're aiming for it to be close to the best, if not the best. And it's lovely having one or two commentators, Brough Scott amongst them, who believes we've achieved that.
Well, if it suits Brough, there you are. If he passed it, you're all right, yeah.
So we wanted to produce a really good quality and ensure there's a lot of space for our racegoers, because I think we're not going to increase the numbers that come racing here on Gold Cup Day. We want to keep that limit of around 70,000, but to ensure they have a better time, better facilities, better customer experience.
And there's 4 floors here. How many in all can you take? How many people can come on the 4 floors?
About 7,000 will come into the stand. So, if you think 10% of the crowd on Gold Cup Day will be absorbed within this building, which relieves the pressure elsewhere. And we've got things like the See You Then bar, the Vegas, which we created last season.
It's great names, the old names coming out.
We like
a great time. No, it's terrific. You've got the best mate over the on the far side and everything. And people remember the old horses, and it's a sort of evocative memories, haven't you?
Well, thankfully, almost all our racegoers here come here because they love racing, and we got the best quality racing, and they really appreciate that. So the names are synonymous with that, and it's lovely now to have a facility which is in keeping with that.
Talking about prices and going on about that, if I wanted to come up here, you race 16 days a year. If I wanted to come up here every day, how much would it cost me?
It would cost £5,500.
And for that, what would I get?
You would get what I genuinely believe is the best sort of sporting and dining facility in this country.
It is pretty nice, yeah.
We are producing fantastic 4-course lunch together with tea, you get a drink on arrival, and you just have the most magnificent views. I mean, on one side, you're looking after...
You see the course here.
Yeah, the racecourse with Cleve Hill in the background is just fantastic, and behind us the paddock and the Malverns.
And you can go outside on the veranda over here. And
you can walk all the way around this floor. There's balcony going all the way around, and I just think, the quality that we're trying to achieve up here, we want it to be second to none, and hopefully it is.
Yeah, but it's £5,500, but the food and the drink and everything else, is that all on top or what?
All the food is included. So you've got lunch on 16 days, and realistically, people would they pay top price to come here and eat on Gold Cup Day, but you've got your meal here on those 16 race days. So for someone who can spend 16 race days here, it would be great.
And the Cheltenham Club, how many people can be members?
We'll limit it to about 250.
Yes. So if I could afford it, I'd come, but I don't think I can quite afford it. But you do look after the press quite well here at Cheltenham, I'll say that. But don't worry about them. But the thing is, coming racing, and that's the great thing. We want people to come racing, bring them in. At the Paddy Power meeting, for instance, you've had record crowds. Absolutely terrific. People want to come. They want to come to Cheltenham, and it's growing all the time.
It is, and it was wonderful. We had 36,000 people here yesterday, which is a record crowd, and previous day also a record. And for that number of people, the number of people that said, it feels really quiet here. It was raining, it wasn't the best of days, but, the ground floor had 1,500, 2,000 people packed into the bar there, the new annual members bar. They're all absorbing more and more people. And I think what we're trying to achieve, just create different areas, different bits of space, so, racegoers just find it a bit easier to move around.
And at the festival itself that everybody talks about and looks forward to, you still limit the crowds, don't you? You're keeping them down up to a point.
We do. I mean, I think the year before I arrived, so 2012, there was a sort of massive crowd on Gold Cup Day, and I think the feedback we had was that it was not comfortable enough. So we've limited it to 70,000 people, and what I'd love to do is see the other 3 days sort of grow up to that and hold that number, so we have a sort of consistent number over the 4 days, but no more than 70,000.
If anybody asks me, I always think the best day to go, and at Royal Ascot, is the opening day.
Agreed.
And Champion Hurdle, and it's the build-up for it and everything like that, like Royal Ascot as well. You want people to come more those days to try and build up. Because the thing is, I argued for a 4-day Cheltenham for at least 30 years. None of you weren't involved then, but nobody ever listened to me. And it was absolutely ridiculous that we were letting this go. I still say there's room for a 5-day Cheltenham. I still say there's room for a Sunday. Any chance of the festival spilling over into the Sunday? Because that's a popular day. Round the world they race on Saturdays and Sundays. Why can't Cheltenham be a Wednesday through to Sunday?
In my mind, we've got an absolutely fantastic festival as it stands. Yes. Tuesday to Friday, it works phenomenally well. It's growing every year. Absolutely agree with you on the Tuesday, and we're looking, last year we had 63,000 people here on the Tuesday. We're looking at building that up almost to the same levels as Gold Cup Day. If we can have 4 consistent days at that level, when people, they want to come midweek, there's no advantage to me in moving on to a Saturday. I think there are disadvantages to moving to 5 days because there's got to be some dilution of the quality of the racing.
But they always say the dilution. That was the argument against a 4-day Cheltenham. They say it dilutes, but anything apart from the Gold Cup and the Champion Hurdle, you can say is dilution, isn't it? It's just they're not quite the very, very top class. So everything is going to be a dilution. But the people, they would love to come. They would still come to Cheltenham. They're still betting. They're still enjoying themselves. Why don't you be adventurous and say, right, 5 days?
When we get to a full house on all 4 days of the current 4-day festival, it potentially could be considered, but I think that's a very long way off.
So a long way off.
So at the moment it's a 4-day festival, and we're just looking to maximise.
Really build that up and everything. And of course the other meetings as well. We're just having the Paddy Power now, and the December meeting, and the one at the end of January. Of course, all the meetings, they all build up. There's a thing in racing. You've been involved with many aspects of racing, many different courses, and that the Cheltenham Festival dominates racing. Otherwise, every other thing, like the Derby comes and on the flat and the King George and the classics and that. But here, everything seems to build up from about September to the Cheltenham in March. Is it too strong, the Cheltenham Festival sort of pulling bar?
I think in many ways it is, because I think the dominance of the Cheltenham Festival means trainers and owners with their horses are just aiming at that and maybe not running as often as we'd like to see them through the rest of the season. I think that's a slight downside of the dominance of the festival, and it's a nice problem to have here. But we'd love to build up other meetings. I think the open meeting here we're going to have again in excess of 70,000 people over these 3 days. It's a big meeting, but again we here see it as a stepping stone for the festival. But I think there's lots of potential to build up other meetings. Again, we have 30,000 here on New Year's Day, and
that's a great meeting. New Year's Day.
It's wonderful.
You've had New Year's Eve and then New Year's Day. Great meeting.
And we're really lucky here at Cheltenham to get the support of our racegoers, and it's lovely also to return something to them in the form of this £45 million development.
And when you're doing very, very well as well, in the old days, frost and snow used to rule the racing out. Now you've got the covers down. Can you guarantee racing, or the weather is a huge problem on many courses here? We seem to have got away with it so often.
I have to say, Simon Clace does an absolutely unbelievable job in he is rarely thwarted by anything the weather throws at us. And I know my first festival, was the Tuesday, 5 o'clock, to sort of find that we'd dropped down to -9 or whatever, which even got us cold under the covers. But we survived that. We managed to learn how to get snow off the covers and move and run when everywhere else is snowbound. Simon's done remarkable things here. Probably the biggest issues, wind is always a factor.
And the sun.
And the sun, which doesn't stop racing, but it stops a few fences or hurdles being jumped. And, we've lost one since I've been here for waterlogging. We've run one on New Year's Day, which probably wind, waterlogging, all sorts of gremlins could have stopped us, but we actually managed to race in unbelievable weather. So, as I said, Simon and the team just do a remarkable job in staging racing, almost whatever the weather.
And we've got this Princess Royal stand. What else is in the pub? Any major changes coming?
I think in the near future, no. I mean, I think we've now got the benchmark of quality in this stand, and we'll wander through the rest of it as well. I mean, it's not just this level where we hope we've done a fantastic job, but elsewhere in the boxes and the public bars and things, we've, I think, built a quality level which I want to try and build the rest of the course up to. So when we got the what now could be referred to as the old grandstand, but the main grandstand, some of which is 25 years old, we just got to do extensive refurbishment just to make. Bring all those into the modern era.
And relatively new, the Centaur stand. Of course, it isn't just racing at Cheltenham. So many other things go on here. Give us an idea of what else outside of the racing family are catered for here at Cheltenham.
Well, I think just in the next week we've got Jules Holland playing here, I think next Friday, launch of the AP McCoy film on the following Monday.
Now, he's the ambassador, isn't he?
He's the ambassador.
The ambassador for Cheltenham.
Yeah.
So he's going to be around greeting us all, isn't he?
He won't be here every day, but he'll be here a number of days. And no, it was wonderful.
I'm so glad racing's using him, and and not letting him sort of drift off and all that sort of thing.
And the interest here in him. I mean, when he came into the dressage with Charlotte Dujardin on Friday, unbelievable. Yeah. I was actually showing Princess Royal around, so I haven't yet seen it. Really look forward to it.
It was very good on television. Channel 4 did it.
I'll check up on that. Thank you.
Very good.
It's been. The excitement that brought and the crowds looking at that, it was just wonderful. So, he is an absolute star.
So what you're saying is come racing, come to Cheltenham and see how it has changed and evolved. Cheltenham the whole time was built up from being, just the festival meeting, really that's all people are bothered about. Now it's all the winter round.
Yeah. Well, I think, I've got to give immense credit to my predecessor, Edward Gillespie, who, you go back probably when he started, now 35 years ago, believe it or not. The festival was a 3-day festival with roughly the same number of people as we had at the we'll have at the Open this week. So that's moved from 70,000 up to 200,000 plus. Yes, we're hopefully carrying it forward, and it is just a fantastic occasion, and it's lovely to see things like this meeting the Open sort of beginning to go along that route as well.
One sort of bit of complaint people had at the festival, especially, the bars are so crowded, so tight. Your easing of this stand will be a help, for instance, won't it?
That's exactly what we wanted to do. I mean, in this stand, we've got the new Vesti bar, we've got the Big Bucks bar, we've created the See You Then bar, Cavegas, so 4 new bars there. We got a new temporary bar, the sort of champagne bar, which at the festival was absolutely packed. People drinking the miniature bottles of champagne. So we're just trying to create places they can go without having to queue. Many more loos around the place.
No, that's really important.
Well, they want to go to the loo, they want to watch the racing, they want to watch the paddock,
and
they
not
want to
queuing
drink,
up for all
and want to bet. And we've introduced the 40 minutes for next season, which we had 2 40-minute gaps before.
Yes. So how do you explain that again?
Well, just give people more time. We know when you've got a lot of people here, there are going to be queues. But if it's a 5-minute queue and you've got that extra 5 minutes, you're going to be much more relaxed.
So the racing will start at what time?
We'll start at the same time. It will finish quarter of an hour later. So 5:30 it finishes.
It's up to
1:30.
1:30 to 5:30.
5:30.
Yeah. So it's as you say, spread it out the time
and it just gives people that bit more time to move around, and hopefully we've created more space for them to move around, so it will just make the experience better.
And my wife, the booby, points out you're doing lots of the change of the car parking as to which way to come in. Is that going to be better coming in and getting away?
I'm sure it will be. It's probably the thing I've done here over the last 3 years that I've been most nervous about, because no one likes change. There are people who are determined to follow the routes they've always followed, whatever we say to them. And so we need to make sure that they're not compromised by this, making sure the local residents are on board and feel it's actually helping them rather than hindering them. And there are bound to be little difficulties as we go through it. Yesterday, we had a meeting with the police and car park people at the end of racing yesterday, and it took 20 minutes less to get 36,000 people out of the racecourse than it did the previous year.
Yeah, but 70,000 coming for the Gold Cup.
Yeah. Something's working. There's still lots of things to do because in some ways, because we got them out so quickly, they then got snarled up just a couple of miles away. So we now got to sort of try and extend the traffic plan to try and cure those areas. And, there'll be lots of things we'll learn from this meeting to bring into the festival when it's actually going to be really tested. But I think a lot of it's worked, and people, once they get used to the changes, I think it'll be even better.
You still seem to get plenty of sponsors for Cheltenham, don't you? And some of the old ones staying on, bringing new ones in. Is there any problem in that area?
No, I mean, it's something we've particularly concentrated on to sort of work with our sponsors and work with diverse sponsors, and as well bring people in for the Jockey Club as well. So we're using the Jockey Club brand as well as the Cheltenham brand. For example, we got Bentley involved with the Cheltenham Club here. We've got now sort of 4 or 5 financial advisory businesses getting involved, and I think people see who they're partnering with in sponsorship, and they want to sort of see that diverse sponsorship, and then it becomes more and more popular.
And some of the major races at the festival, you want to build them up at other courses, building up as stepping stones to coming here at Cheltenham.
Absolutely. We've had what we call the Road to Cheltenham and a number of races. So we'll see someone like Stan James sponsoring the whole series of the race to the Champion Hurdle, and we're developing that more and more to again with Neptune and others to just try and bring that. I think it describes the narrative, isn't it? To sort of through the season.
Ghastly word, narrative, but there we are. It is. You're absolutely right.
But so that people, from the beginning of the season through to the festival, can actually see the whole picture.
Well, that's Ian Renton, who's the big cheese here at Cheltenham. And I'll say one thing that he won't say, but I will say: come racing, come to Cheltenham. It's fantastic over here. If only I could afford £5,500, this would be my table. Number 48, I'll be here with the booby. But I can't afford it, that's the trouble. Ian, thanks a lot.
Okay.
It's a great place.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thanks, Ian.